The night was alive with glittering lights. At the heart of the city stood Crystal Mall, a towering building of glass and steel, glowing so brightly it seemed like a fallen star. Behind those shining walls was a world of music, laughter, expensive perfumes, and luxury that only the wealthy could afford. On the rooftop cafe sat Kinza, dressed in a designer outfit, a delicate diamond pendant resting at her neck. She was surrounded by her friends. Her laughter echoed as she sipped her coffee, yet behind her confident smile, a quiet emptiness lived. Her friend leaned closer with a grin. "Kinza, tomorrow is your birthday, right? We'll make it grand, bigger than ever." Kinza smiled, faintly, but her thoughts whispered, "Lights, dresses, parties, I have everything. But happiness, why does it always feel so far away?" While Kinza lived her dreamlike life above, something dangerous was sparking below. In the basement, a cluster of old wires hissed and crackled. A tiny spark leapt out, landing on cardboard boxes stacked carelessly in the corner. Nobody noticed. The music was too loud, the people too distracted. That spark, small and silent, was about to rewrite destinies. Not far away, outside the mall, stood Saim, a poor young man, sweat dripping down his forehead as he tightened the bolt on an old bicycle at his roadside stall. His clothes were simple, his hands rough from labor, but his eyes carried something rare: hope. Saim worked hard all day as a helper, and at night he assisted at a tea shop. Life gave him little, but he gave everything he had in return: honesty, effort, and courage. He often told his friends, "I may be poor, but I'll never be useless. If I can't be rich in money, I'll be rich in heart." That very night, destiny was preparing to test those words. At 9 p.m., Kinza and her friends left the cafe, walking toward the parking lot. As they laughed about tomorrow's party, a faint smell touched Kinza's nose. She froze. "Do you smell that? Something's burning!" Before her friends could answer, a piercing alarm rang across the mall. "Fire! Fire!" Panic exploded instantly. Shoppers screamed, running toward the exits. Smoke rose like a monster, crawling up the walls, devouring everything in its way. Kinza and her friends rushed toward the parking side, heels clicking against the floor. But in the chaos, Kinza's heel shoe caught in a grate. She stumbled hard and fell. Her friends, blinded by fear, sprinted ahead, leaving her behind. "Wait! Don't leave me!" Kinza cried, but her voice was swallowed by smoke and chaos. Her chest tightened. Tears filled her eyes. For the first time, the girl who had everything felt what it was like to have no one. Outside, Saim watched as terrified. Crowds poured out of the mall. His heart clenched when he saw a mother screaming, "My daughter! She's still inside! Please, someone help her!" Saim's pulse raced. He didn't think twice. He dropped his tools and ran. A guard blocked him. "Stop! You can't go in! The fire is spreading! You'll die!" But Saim's feet didn't stop. His voice thundered back. "If God gave me strength, it's for saving lives, not for running away." Inside the mall, the air was a suffocating mix of smoke and screams. Pieces of ceiling crashed down, sparks flew, people fought to escape. Through the thick darkness, Saim heard it, a desperate cry, weak yet piercing. "Help! Please! Someone!" He wrapped his shirt around his mouth, his eyes burning as he pushed forward. Guided only by that fragile voice, he stumbled toward the corner of the ground floor. And there she was, Kinza, coughing, her face streaked with tears, her elegant dress smudged with ash. She looked up, expecting death, but instead saw him. A young man in torn clothes, sweat and soot covering his face, running straight toward her with fearless eyes. Her lips trembled. Who are you?" Saim didn't pause. He knelt, grabbed her hand firmly and said, "Questions later, right? Now we're getting you out of here." And in that moment, Amid fire, chaos, and fear, a story began. A story of courage and sacrifice. A story of how a poor boy's honesty and bravery would touch the heart of a rich girl, and eventually change both their lives forever. The fire raged like a wild beast, climbing walls, cracking glass, swallowing everything in its path. The once bright mall had turned into a prison of smoke and flames. Saim pulled Kinza up, steadying her against his shoulder. Her legs shook as she coughed violently. I can't breathe, Kinza gasped, clutching his arm. You will, Saim said firmly, pressing his shirt against her mouth. Stay close. Don't let go of my hand, no matter what. He guided her forward, but the fire wasn't merciful. A section of the ceiling collapsed ahead with a deafening crash. Flames leapt, blocking the nearest exit. Kinza froze in terror. We're trapped! Saim glanced around, scanning the chaos. The crowd had already fled. No one was coming back. No rich friend, no bodyguard, no savior, only him. Listen to me, he said, gripping her shoulders. His eyes, though tired and poor, burned with certainty. If we panic, we die. If we move, we live. Do you trust me? For a girl who had trusted no one in her perfect, guarded life, she found herself nodding. I trust you. Saim pulled her toward a side corridor. The smoke was thicker here, the air hotter. Every breath felt like swallowing fire. He covered her face with his scarf and dragged her forward. Suddenly, Kinza stumbled, her ankle twisting. She screamed in pain, falling again. Saim knelt, checked her foot. Sprained! You can't run like this. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Leave me. Save yourself. Please. Saim looked at her as if insulted. And live knowing. I abandoned someone who needed me, never. Before she could argue, he bent down and lifted her in his arms. She gasped in shock. No one, not even her closest friends, had ever carried her burdens. Yet this stranger, this poor boy with nothing, carried her as if her life meant everything. The fire roared louder. Heat singed Saim's skin, sweat pouring down his face. His arms trembled under Kinza's weight, but he held on, teeth clenched. As they turned a corner, a burning beam crashed in front of them, sparks exploding. Kinza screamed and buried her face in his shoulder. Saim hesitated only a second, then kicked a side door open, leading them into a storage room. Inside, smoke was less, but the walls shook. Time was running out. He set Kinza down gently. She looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. Why are you risking your life for me? You don't even know me. Saim wiped sweat from his brow. His voice was calm, steady. Because if I walk away now, I'll stop being human. Money, class, none of it matters in front of a life. Your life. His words struck her deeper than the fire. For the first time, Kinza saw something her world had never shown her. True courage without a price tag. But their battle wasn't over. A loud explosion shook the floor. Flames surged through the cracks. The storage room wouldn't last long. Saim scanned the room desperately. Then he spotted it, a ventilation shaft near the ceiling. Small but big enough for Kinza to crawl through. That's our way out, he said. Kinza shook her head. What about you? I'll lift you up first. Once you're outside, I'll follow. No, Kinza's voice cracked. You'll die in here. Saim gave a faint smile. I'll die only if you stop moving. Now climb. He pushed a crate under the vent, then helped her stand. She hesitated, tears streaking her soot-covered face. For a moment, she didn't see a poor boy in dirty clothes. She saw a hero standing in fire, ready to give everything. Her hands trembled as she touched the vent. Promise me you'll come too. I don't break promises, he said firmly. She nodded, and with his help began crawling inside the shaft. Each second felt eternal as the flames crept closer, but Saim's steady hands pushed her upward until she vanished into the darkness above. "Go, Kinza! Don't look back!" he shouted, and as the fire roared around him, Saim stayed behind, battered, coughing, but unshaken. In that burning chaos, a bond had been forged, not of wealth, not of status, but of courage and sacrifice. Kinza, the wealthy girl who had everything, was learning what it meant to be saved by someone who had nothing, except a heart braver than fire itself. Kinza crawled through the ventilation shaft, her body trembling with fear. The metal burned her palms, smoke seeped in behind her, but her mind repeated only one thing. He stayed behind. For me. When she finally reached the far end of the shaft, she kicked open the cover and tumbled outside onto the cold pavement. Fresh air rushed into her lungs, but her relief lasted only seconds. She looked back at the vent. "Saim!" she cried, her voice breaking. "Come out, please!" But there was no answer, only the angry roar of fire echoing from within. Inside, Saim was fighting his last battle. The flames had crawled into the storage room, devouring boxes, licking the walls. He covered his face with his arm, eyes burning, lungs screaming for air. The heat pressed down on him like a giant's hand. He dragged the crate back under the vent and tried to climb. His arms shook. His chest heaved. The smoke was heavier now, turning every breath into a knife. His thoughts blurred, but one memory kept him moving. The look in Kinza's eyes. The way she had trusted him. The way she had whispered, "Promise me you'll come too." "I can't break that promise," he told himself. "Not now." He jumped, caught the edge of the vent, and slipped. His body crashed to the ground, pain shooting up his side. For a moment, he couldn't move. The fire laughed around him, merciless. But then he heard it. Her voice. From outside. "Saim, don't give up. You can do it." And somehow, in that chaos, that single cry lit a fire stronger than the flames around him. With a final burst of strength, he leapt again. His fingers gripped the vent edge, arms trembling as he pulled himself upward. The metal seared his skin, but he gritted his teeth, crawling inch by inch until his head broke through the shaft. Behind him, the storage room exploded, the fire swallowing everything he left behind. Outside, Kinza's eyes widened as she saw his hand push through the vent. "Saim!" She rushed forward, grabbing his arm, pulling with all the strength her fragile body could muster. Inch by inch, he emerged from the smoke, until finally he collapsed beside her on the pavement, coughing, gasping, alive. Kinza fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She pressed her trembling hands against his soot-covered cheeks. "You came back. You kept your promise." Saim tried to smile, his voice hoarse. "I told you. I don't break promises." By now, firefighters and crowds had gathered. Sirens wailed, people pointed, cameras flashed. But Kinza didn't care. She held him tightly, ignoring the ash that smeared her dress, ignoring the whispers of onlookers. To the world, he looked like just a poor boy covered in smoke and sweat. But to her, he was the man who had carried her through fire when no one else dared. Hours later, as the blaze was finally brought under control, Kinza sat beside Saim on the ambulance step. He had refused treatment until everyone else was safe. Even burned, bruised, and coughing, he had asked the doctors, "Are all the others okay?" Kinza stared at him in disbelief. "You nearly died in there, and you're still thinking about others?" He looked at her calmly, his eyes steady despite the pain. "If my life isn't used to help someone, then what's the point of having it?" Her heart clenched. All her life, she had known men who measured worth in cars, money, and parties. But here sat a boy with nothing, and yet he was richer than anyone she had ever known. For the first time, Kinza whispered softly, almost to herself, "Maybe this fire didn't just burn a building. Maybe it burned away the walls I built around my heart." Saim didn't hear her. He was too tired, too worn. He simply leaned back against the ambulance, his eyes closing, his chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. But Kinza looked at him and silently promised herself, "This isn't the end. This is only the beginning." Days passed after the fire, but its memory burned fresh in the city's heart. News channels showed the footage again and again. Poor boy risks his life to save Millionaire's daughter. Everywhere Saim went, strangers recognized him. Some clapped him on the back, others called him a hero. Yet Saim remained the same, humble, quiet, still helping at the tea shop in the evenings. Fame meant nothing to him, but to Kinza, he meant everything. Her life had changed forever that night. For the first time, she stopped caring about parties, jewelry, or the shallow laughter of fake friends. She spent her days thinking of the boy who had carried her through fire when everyone else ran away. One evening, she found him at the tea stall, serving customers with his usual gentle smile. "Saim," she said softly. He turned, surprised. "Kinza, what are you doing here?" "I came to thank you, again, for saving my life." "You already did," he said simply. "That's enough." "No." She shook her head, stepping closer. "It's not enough. You risked your life for me. You showed me something I've never seen before. Honesty, courage, sacrifice. Saim, you didn't just save me from fire. You saved me from a life of emptiness." Saim blinked, unsure how to answer. He had faced flames without fear, but her words set his heart racing. "Kinza, I'm just a poor man. I don't belong in your world," she smiled faintly. "Then I'll leave that world behind. Because I'd rather have a life with you, full of truth and kindness, than a palace full of lies." Her decision shook her family. Her father raged. "You'll marry a laborer, a boy with nothing?" Kinza stood tall, her voice steady. "He has something more valuable than money, a heart that's pure. When the world turned its back, he carried me through fire. If that doesn't make him worthy, then tell me, who is?" Silence filled the room. Her father saw a strength in her eyes he had never seen before. He realized he couldn't break her resolve, and so, weeks later, beneath the open sky, a small but beautiful wedding took place. Kinza, the millionaire's daughter, walked toward Saim, not in a glittering ballroom, but in a simple garden surrounded by people whose smiles were real. Saim stood nervously in a clean white sherwani gifted by her family, his hands trembling. When Kinza reached him, she took his hand firmly and whispered, "You once told me you never break promises. Now it's my turn. I promise. For the rest of my life, I'll walk beside you, no matter how hard the road." Saim's eyes glistened as he whispered back, "And I promise, I'll protect you, not just from fire, but from every storm life throws our way." The imam's words sealed their bond, and as the crowd cheered, Kinza and Saim shared a look, filled with quiet triumph. The girl who once had everything had chosen the boy with nothing, and together, they had built something no fire could ever destroy, a love born of courage, sealed with trust, and blessed by honesty. And as they walked hand in hand into their new life, one truth echoed louder than the flames that had once surrounded them. Riches can fade, beauty can burn, but the heart of a brave and honest man is priceless and eternal.